Good morning, everybody, and welcome to InsureTalk16. My name is Nontutuko Mhlungwe, and I will be your host for this session. While today marks the last day of Heritage Month, a time, of course, where we all get to celebrate our different cultures, our roots, and our diversity. This most definitely is one of the things that makes South Africa such a beautiful country to live in. While we have an exciting lineup in store for you, as always, the theme for today is the workforce of tomorrow. How has this evolved? How does it look in the future? The agenda and speaker lineup is appearing on your screen right now, so this is what you can look forward to today. Do be sure to stay on until the end of the session. All right, let me take this opportunity now to thank all of our sponsors without whom the session would not be possible. A huge thank you to Santam, our headline sponsor today, as well as our event partners, CIB Global Choices, as well as the IISA, who have assisted with the accreditation of the session for 2.5 CPD hours. A huge thank you to Cover as well, coming in as our media partner. All right, we're not wasting any time today. We're going to get right into our first speaker. He goes by the name of Daryl Dawson. He is the head at Echelon. Daryl is going to be talking to us today about the ever-changing risk landscape and simple lessons from COVID. Without any further ado, it is over to you, Daryl.
Good day to you all, and thank you for the introduction. I'm Daryl Dawson, head of Echelon Private Client Insurance. We're a division of Santam, and we are the leading provider of insurance solutions to high net worth private clients. Today, I'm going to be talking about the ever-changing risk landscape and some simple lessons from COVID-19. The ever-changing landscape and some lessons. The basic premise of insurance is the pooling of funds from many to cover the costs of some. There are complicated methods for how to do this, but one fact remains consistent. For insurance to work well, people need to be in and stay in the insurance pool. That is a quote from Ron Williams. Yes?
I can't seem to see your presentation. Can you please share your screen?
Right. You see it now?
Can you just please swap the presenter at the top there where it says display settings?
Right.
The first one. Thank you.
All right. So the ever-changing risk landscape and some simple lessons from COVID-19. A quote from Ron Williams, the US businessman and a leader in insurance. Basic premise of insurance is the pooling of funds from the many to cover the costs of some. Complicated methods of how to do this. One factor remains consistent. For insurance to work well, people need to be in and stay in the insurance pool. Now, against that background, I'm going to take us through some of the risks which are on our landscape and the ever-changing risks which have arisen over the last few years. Top emerging risks, according to research done by the Actuary, January 2018, Actuary magazine, cyber risks, financial volatility, asset price collapse, retrenchment and globalization, and technology risks. Those are normally split into 4 or 5 general categories: economic risks, environmental, geopolitical, societal, and technological. I'm going to talk you through some of these risks and put up a few examples, just so we each and all of us have an understanding as to what we are looking at and what we are facing in this ever-changing risk landscape. First off, economic risks. I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide, but there are a few important things. First one identified as a big risk is energy price shock. That is to do with energy prices, particularly the price of oil. You think about before COVID, crude oil was running at about $100 US a barrel. During the toughest times and the hardest lockdowns of COVID, the price dropped to $10 a barrel. It's now back up and running at about $80 per barrel. Now, that sort of volatility is not good for the market and sends shivers in all directions. It creates issues as well regarding the viability of non-carbon energy solutions. The next big risk, the Chinese economy. We're facing it right now. This was predicted a few years ago as a real risk in economic risk in terms of a hard landing of the Chinese economy. There's been a recent crackdown on some of the tech conglomerates, and that's created issues. And that's filtered through right to our stock exchange and our tech-heavy stock exchange. Our all-share index has dropped from about 69,000 points to the current of 64,000 points, just because of largely that factor. But also, there's a massive conglomerate in China called Evergrande, property developers. They're just not meeting their debt at the moment. They have massive debt liabilities. They're a global 500 company. And people are saying this could be China's Lehman Brothers moment. Could it be? If it is, we're all in for a tough ride. Hopefully there'll be a Chinese government bailout, but that is a pending risk that we are facing right now. Some environmental risks. Climate change. This one has been around for a long time and is, at one stage was called global warming, but the correct name for it now is climate change. Freshwater availability. We're sitting right now in the world with a population approaching 8 billion, and water resources are becoming scarce and will lead to all sorts of social and economic problems down the line. Tropical storms and severe weather events. These are inextricably linked to climate change. One thing we know is as the world warms up, tropical storms and severe weather events become more severe. And people are saying, well, what's the big fuss? You know, the world temperature has only changed 1 degree Celsius in the 100 years that has been measured. Well, that's just the average. You see, you know, Joburg might start at 0 in the morning and head up to 21 at midday in June. But we built for those for the fluctuations. The real issue is as the oceans warm and the earth warms, small degrees of change like that create massive changes in our weather systems. To say it the other way around, if the temperatures had to drop by 3 to 4 degrees, we would enter another ice age. 5 degrees, half of the US would be under ice. Then earthquakes and tsunami, and then an interesting one which we'll talk about, space weather. Now, climate change has unfortunately gone into the back burner since COVID. And the real risk we face now is non-compliance by governments with their international agreements and their commitments. We all know that a transition to a low carbon economy is crucial, but at what cost? And with it brings new technology, and new technology always equals new risks. So risk transfer solutions are needed and have to be found. This slide for me is one that is in many ways terrifying. It shows the 10 hottest years on record globally. And you'll see the oldest one of the lot is 2005. So in the last 16 years, we've had 10 of the hottest years ever. And there's no way that it's going to get cooler unless you make drastic changes in terms of our carbon footprint. So what does climate change do? What does that risk produce? Well, wildfires, as I said, tropical storms, other severe weather events, drought, and food security goes with that. So let's look at some of the big wildfires. Now, these stats are the USA year to date, and it's effectively the western side of the USA, the big states like California, Oregon, Washington State. They've been under drought for the last 2 or 3 years. So year to date, there's already been 44,647 wildfires. And that is because 75% of the western USA is under drought. 22% of that is under severe drought. And of course, that's where the people live now. There might not be so many living in Oregon and Washington, but certainly in California, the people live where the fires are. Here's a map of Australia from just over a year ago. Literally at the time that COVID was making its face known, Australia was in the midst of massive wildfires all around the rim of the country. That's where the people live, and that's where the fires were. 18.6 million hectares was burnt. 34 deaths, 2,000 properties. So it's where the people live. And US dollars, 74 billion. Now, the indigenous people of the USA and of Australia have lived with fires. So fires have been around forever. The difference now, of course, is that the fires are happening where we've chosen to populate, and that's what creates the massive difference in risk. We're not immune to it in South Africa. I think you'll all recall the wildfires we had in the Southern Cape in 2017. Areas like Knysna, Plettenberg Bay, Sedgefield. 4 billion rand was the biggest single personal lines catastrophe claim in South African history. The worst wildfire disaster in South Africa. So we're not immune. Then severe weather. I just picked this one randomly because it looks random, but it isn't. Germany and Belgium have suffered massive floods in the last couple of months. The cost of it is some $10 billion US. And why it's going to hurt us all is most of that loss is insured, and most of it is reinsured. So the last 4 years, reinsurers have barely been making a profit. In fact, most of them have been running at a loss with combined loss ratios in the region of 104%. This year, they were hoping to finally turn the corner. And for the first 6 months of the year, the major reinsurers were reporting good numbers. And it looked like 2021 was going to be a good reinsurance year. Then along came the Belgian and German floods. And these are not 1 in 100-year events. These events are becoming more and more common. And so the bad news is for all of us is reinsurance rates are going to remain high and are going to increase. Talk in the market at the moment is anything from 7% to 10%, depending in what field of insurance you're in. This slide shows the top 5 hurricanes in history, or tropical storms. Hurricanes are where they happen in the Western Hemisphere. They're called typhoons and cyclones in other parts of the globe. The Great Hurricane of 1780, almost impossible to work out the economic cost, but the cost in lives was 22,000 deaths. That one hit the Caribbean, and literally the Caribbean was decimated, and that was before there were the population numbers that there are now. That sort of hurricane hits again, the numbers will be bigger. Katrina in 2005 in the USA wiped out New Orleans, 125 billion US. Now that one is not as big a hurricane as the 1780, not by a long way. There have been other hurricanes and typhoons that have been bigger. This one, though, cost the most because it wiped out a city. And for that reason, most of the reason for it was human error. The walls and the levees were not built well enough. And so when the flood arrived, and when it breached the walls, it came over. Some of the walls were designed to let water out. What they in fact did was let the water in. And so it ended up with the whole city of New Orleans underwater for days, people cut off, 125 billion US. Hurricane Maria, 2017 in the Caribbean, also $90 million. Hurricane Sandy, 2012, $65 billion. But the real issue on that one is the loss of human life. Haiti was decimated. It will take decades for that country to survive and to get back to where it was. Hurricane Jean, 2004, also in the Caribbean. So you'll see just those numbers there just show how these storms have become more costly for us as insurers and for the economies of the world. And it's because of the population and, of course, human error. And one thing we know, every year there's going to be a range of hurricanes, and they're going to make landfall, be it in the Western Hemisphere or the other oceans, and they will cause damage, and we need to prepare for them. We're not immune in South Africa either. This is Southern Africa. Adia and Kenneth hit Mozambique in 2019. Literally 2 or 3 weeks apart, they came in. Once again, caused massive infrastructural damage. Quite a bit of it was insured, but a lot of it wasn't. So the real cost of this one was in human cost. The last big one we had in Southern Africa was Cyclone de Moyne, 1984, 515 million US dollars. That's inflation adjusted. So a massive one. And dare I say it, we are overdue for another big one in the Southern Hemisphere, in Southern Africa. Then earthquakes and tsunami. I think we'll all remember the Boxing Day tsunami over the Indian Ocean. 228,000 deaths. And it's not the first one. Archaeological records show there have been 3 similar events in history in that area. was the third largest earthquake ever recorded, 8.8 on the Richter scale. But the real damager here was it had an 8 to 10 minute duration. So it wiped out populations, and the populations were people who lived in the coastal zones, which in the last 50 years have become overpopulated. This is the earthquake and the tsunami that hit Japan in 2012. The Tehuka earthquake wasn't particularly big, but it hit in the wrong place. Caused a tsunami, and that tsunami breached the nuclear power plant at Fukushima. Once again, Japan has earthquakes, nothing new to Japan, and they have big ones. But this one was, again, human error, which made the earthquake and the tsunami so devastating. The walls around the plant were not built high enough to be able to withstand a tsunami of this size. So once the water got in and the nuclear plant's cooling systems couldn't keep the nuclear systems cool, we entered a meltdown phase. So it became, since Chernobyl, the second biggest nuclear disaster ever. So it's technically a natural disaster, but it's as much man-made. Design faults, and to make it worse was after a full hearing on how this loss occurred years later, there were eventually admissions made that all of their contingency plans in terms of how to deal with such an event and how to evacuate were just not up to scratch. Space weather. This is one that I find really interesting, and it's one that has been off the radar for a while, but it needs to come back onto the radar. Space weather really is the situation where we have coronal mass ejections from the sun flares. They create geomagnetic storms. These come across the heavens, and thankfully, most of them go in an arc that miss the Earth, but at times they do hit. Now, the sun works on a 7-year solar cycle where it goes through peaks and troughs of having these coronal ejections, and we're now approaching another peak. If you go back to what was called the Carrington event in 1859, you'll see exactly the type of damage this can cause. Mainly Northern Hemisphere, and what it did was it knocked out telegraph lines all over the Northern Hemisphere. It even caused paper in telegraph machines to catch fire and people who were working on the machines to be shocked. Now, if we had to have one of those geomagnetic storms now, it would be devastating. It would take out lots of our infrastructure in the Northern Hemisphere. The way that these storms work is they damage areas closer to the North and South Pole more. So here in Southern Africa, we would be pretty exempt from it. We wouldn't really be hit by the initial storm. But it would knock out infrastructure in Northern Europe. And at the same time as that, it would knock out a lot of our infrastructure. So power grids, Northern Europe, power supplies, transformers would go down. And step-up transformers and step-downs. Step-downs are the ones which bring the power into your home safely. And it would take days, in some cases even weeks, for power to be restored. And while that's happening, it would affect the power grid, communications worldwide. So we would feel contingency effects from it. Things would just grind to a halt in Northern Europe. Telecommunications would go down. We would battle to communicate with anybody in Northern Europe. It's happened before. As I said, the Carrington event. There was a small one that happened in Quebec in 1989. There, the city of Quebec was down for about 2 days without power. Imagine if we had a situation where London, New York, Hanover, Boston, etc., cities like that were out for days. It would just have a massive effect. It's a classic low incidence but high impact event. And it's one that is not may come, will come. It'll happen again. We need to be ready for it. Geopolitical risk. I'm not going to spend too much on this, but really just to talk about the edges of it. Transactional crime and corruption, terrorism, war and civil wars. Human trafficking, drugs, poaching, smuggling, cybercrime. Big risk for world economies. Terrorism takes the form of hostage taking, ransom, Nigerian school children, businessmen, attacks on major cities. So these are all very big risks. Let's then talk about a couple of societal risks. Infectious disease. Once again, this was identified in 2013 by Swiss Re as a pending risk. It's not the first time it's happened on Earth. We've had previous pandemics, the 1918 flu, sometimes referred to wrongly as the Spanish flu. It killed between 35 and 50 million people. The bubonic plague in the 14th century, once again, killed approximately 50 million people, 12 million in China alone. So this is the current state of the world, COVID. 234 million infections, 4.7 million deaths, $4 trillion loss to world GDP 2020 and this year. It's already been on for 22 months. How much longer? What will the full cost be in terms of human loss? How South Africa responded? Well, I'd say our life insurers have done fantastically well. They've been at the forefront of getting people vaccinated, and they have been jumping in and paying mortality claims, funeral claims, life claims. Sanlam, July 2020, their mortality claims for that month were 1 billion. July 2021, 2 billion. So it just shows how these things have stepped up as the deaths have accumulated. And you must remember that July this year was not one of the peaks. The peak of COVID peaked after July. So that was the third wave peak. 60% increase in funeral claims. And as I said, the life insurers have been at the forefront of getting people vaccinated. Health insurers have also stepped up. They have looked after people in hospital and have paid for COVID tests, and they've also been very proactive in the rolling out of vaccinations. Short-term insurers, well, most of the losses were not covered. But there's been a lot of fighting around the world, litigation regarding business interruption claims. Even as we speak now, there's litigation going on in the USA and in Australia and in Canada. And it's all really got to do with the questions of causation and, of course, the duration of indemnity. Most policies in the world didn't have business interruption cover for an event like this. One of the requirements being is there had to be a physical loss. But about 1 to 2% of policies did have extensions, and we're in the midst of it. Those claims are being settled, but there's still litigation worldwide. Riots. This is another one of the societal risks. All over the world, we are seeing riots. Black Lives Matter, 2020, 2 billion, 140 cities. What's the long-term cost? We're not immune. Gauteng, 24 billion rand, 3,000 shops, 150,000 jobs. SASRI have stepped up. They've given mandates to the insurance companies to settle these claims, and these claims are being settled. So hats off to SASRI. Technological risks. This is the big risk facing the world right now, particularly cyber attack. I'm just going to quickly talk about driverless cars. That's a risk as well. There's the famous case of the Tesla driverless vehicle, which slammed right into the side of a truck which turned across its path. And the reason it did it was it failed to recognize the white side of the truck against the bright sky background. So it's a new risk. E-cigarette addiction. We'll come back to cyber attack. Cyber attack. These are stats from Fortinet, a survey they did. 1,027% increase year to year. Globally, an attack every 11 seconds. Private client information compromise, loss of data, loss of trade secrets. So this is a massive risk. This is, in fact, the biggest risk we face as insurers and to our economy. Worldwide, Colonial Pipeline in USA. In the old days, you bombed the pipeline to knock it out. These days, you cyber attack the people who control it. PayPal, person's information. South Africa, the Transnet Port Terminal, they had to declare force majeure because the terminal was closed for days. Debting consultants, client information stolen. So, some simple lessons from COVID. We've shown that humanity and saving lives matters. The human spirit is resilient and will always find a way to deal with a crisis and bounce back. We learn from past mistakes, but not always. We develop new ways to interact and transact and will continue to do so. Sometimes the worst case scenario where the models turns out to be understated. Key is risk identification and risk management must become and remain core to how we conduct our personal, our community, and our business lives. Going back to that first slide, the basic premise of insurance is the pooling of funds of the many to cover the costs of some. So this is our challenge. We need to identify new risks which are insurable and fill the gaps. People in this room, this virtual room, we need to create products which manage and transfer this risk. And we need to price those products correctly to make sure there is money in the pool to pay the claims when they come. It's inevitable we're going to get more hurricanes. There's going to be more pandemics. There's going to be more risk, economic and insurance. We need to identify which clients are suited to be insured on a standard commodity type product versus those who require specialist cover. And those who require specialist cover, we need to make sure they get the specialist cover. So when the big event happens, they are properly insured. We need to educate our clients of their need for insurance. Our challenge is to bring more clients into the insurance pool. And once they're in the pool, we need to keep them in the pool by building trust and adding value. That's the only way we're going to be able to deal with these future risks that come up from an insurance point of view. That will be the end of my presentation. Thank you for your time. That is our email address, web address, and also Google sometimes specialist business insurance if you want to know more about some of the specialist covers which are available to deal with the ever-changing risk landscape. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daryl, for that very insightful presentation. If COVID anything, it's that our risks are constantly emerging and are not stagnant. So huge thank you for that. Just a reminder that the session has been accredited for 2.5 CPD hours by the IISA. So you can look forward to receiving your points at the end, or in the course of next week rather. Right, on to our next speaker now. He goes by the name of Wimpie van der Merwe. He is the CEO at Global Choices. And he is going to be talking to us under the topic Evolve, Change, Disrupt. Over to you, Wimpie.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy. I'm grateful for this opportunity to speak to you today and looking at the future of what the workforce of tomorrow will look like. And I can't think of a more dynamic time in the insurance industry to do so. Given the wave of disruption and change that we are going through at present in this country and in the world. So my topic today, I just want to do my slide. My topic today is to talk to you about this evolve, change, and disrupt, and and how it's relevant in today's environment of change. So, one thing that history taught us, and if it taught us anything, is that everything changes. And if you observed and watch Daryl's presentation, even the risk landscape, how it's changing every year, and how we have to adapt to those circumstances. The only constant is change. In business, this means that if you're not constantly changing and adapting, you are risking your survival. Norms, trends, technology, and expectation are evolving very quickly on a daily basis. And it's essential for insurers to adapt or risk disruption. The insurance industry is evolving with rapid high-tech adoptions, and data streams are multiplying, actually on a monthly basis, with more consumers connected and online. And so new opportunity and new job requirements are emerging. The future is impossible to predict, but preparedness cannot be underestimated. So the next phase of my presentation is going to be to look at trends that are shaping the insurance industry and how digital technologies are driving change. With the rise of application programming interfaces and business process automation, outdated legacy systems can board now the digital transformation train, creating seamless user experiences and removing barriers created by existing and outdated service silos. Digital solutions can optimize multiple objectives simultaneously. And I'm just going to stand still for a moment. What I mean with these lot of words, descriptive words, is why don't we sometimes think a little bit different about the whole process of insurance? Why must we send a client a blank claim form? Don't we capture that information the day we onboard them? From the emergency risk insurance event that happens through to claims facilitation, you can create a very convenient resolution by using and optimizing digital solutions. You've got cloud technology where all of that data can sit, and when it's required, it can be utilized. Technology capabilities should be designed to get more intelligent about customer needs and the ability to act in real time on that intelligence. This is one of the key trends affecting the insurance service industry, and it will drive revenue and profitability more directly in the future. Processes that can be automated with relative ease, including marketing, customer onboarding, online sales, customer services, and various internal processes ranging from, as I mentioned earlier, pre-populated claim forms and supporting information and self-service portals to digital single customer view of the client's claims journey for different parties that's got interest in that journey to view and assist continuously. Allow business rules and bots to handle the basic repetitive tasks, frees up staff, qualified, costly staff, time to focus on more complex and important activities and cases. Evolving technologies are continuously improving user experiences that have empowered those outside the tech industry to access and use technology and products and services continuously. At a cumulative scale, consumers have created access to use and purchase sophisticated technology products, as well as to participate fully in the development of these products. You're always asked to give a little bit of feedback, and all of that information always gets used to actually improve products and services for the platform that you're actually utilizing. As a consumer demographics shift and traditional life stages being disrupted, there's a growing demand for more flexible, easy, accessible insurance offerings. In response, usage-based insurance options have multiplied, and so have modular insurance models that allow consumers to tailor their policies to their unique lifestyle needs. Insurers are seeing a gradual shift from risk management to risk prevention. We are transforming the relationship between insurer and insured by symbiosis. Both parties are dependent upon a risk and receive beneficial reinforcement. Prevention versus cure, the new norm, the new focus, and the new value add that's busy being created in the insurance industry. One way of reducing risk and reducing claims volumes is through sensor-equipped and smart devices for home security, water meters, geysers, and fire prevention. We're talking about the new type of houses where the houses become smart and certain areas of risk will be connected to your insurance policy. With this explosion of data sources and insurers adopting strategies like predictive maintenance, also a new value add that can evolve now in the insurance industry for risk prevention, behavior incentivization to encourage risk reducing behaviors, careful driving, and healthy habits. In the age of Internet of Things and social media, insurers have access to new real-time data sources that increasingly inform and underwrite and to new real-time data sources that increasingly inform underwriting, best practice, and allow for more personalized policies and more convenient services. However, this access comes with intense data privacy concerns and gives rise to the need to carefully data governance. Strong brands that build high engaged communities that unite people around the shared purpose beyond the brand itself, nurture lasting bonds of loyalty. Furthermore, the rise of various social justice movements that can also be a risk, like we've seen in America. Around the world, human brands that take a clear stance on current events resonate with consumers with similar values. Consumers expect seamless convenience in their interactions with brands, with brand partners, networks, creating integrated ecosystems that address their lifestyle needs at numerous touchpoints. These types of diverse value propositions are increasingly facilitated by mergers and acquisitions with tech companies, or in our case, InsureTech startups that provide insurance companies with new technology capabilities and friendly client experiences. The story I'm going to tell now is all these changes that's happening and that's happening in the insurance industry is quite relevant to quite a lot of us in the insurance industry. And I love to tell these stories, and it's going to be two stories, and the value of these stories and the insights of these stories and how it's actually applicable to the future of the workforce as well. The first story is about the receptionist. This is a lady that left school in standard 8, today is grade 10, and looking for a job. She was very lucky after a long search to get appointed as a receptionist at the law firm. And after training at this firm on how to work the switchboard and to understand her role and the expectation of her, she was very grateful for this opportunity. And she went and analyzed her job description, she analyzed what's expected of her. And she realized that sitting at the front desk, she's the first image and impression of the firm, and the first contact person to the firm via the telephone. She went to one of the family members and borrowed some money to buy some new clothes, because she believed the image also, you have to dress for that image. So she bought 5 outfits that you can mix and match, so it looks like she got more than one outfit. And every night she trained her voice, how to answer the phone and how to sound professional and how to work on a telephone etiquette. Over the weekends, she actually visited hotels, smart hotels in the city. And she went and sat there and observed the concierge desk, the reception desk of the hotel, and how the employees behind the desk conduct themselves, their body language, their professionalism, the tone of their voice. She realized that she's actually the host of the firm. she decided when people come in, she will get up from around the desk and actually greet them by hand and show them a seat. She then also offered them coffee and tea, or a cold beverage. She realized that even the offer of a beverage became a different experience. She remembered that her late grandmother left her a silver tray with a coffee pot, a teapot, a milk jug, and a sugar bowl. She went and cleaned it up and took it to work. And she starts service the beverages on the silverware, in the silverware. She cleaned it up. Apologies, lost my track there. They were, guests felt very important, and they normally remarked on the silverware, and it normally starts a conversation and the origins of it. She also noticed that most of the clients come 20 minutes, 15 minutes, or 10 minutes early for their meetings. So every day on her way to work, she stopped and buy newspapers and then offered the newspapers with the beverage when she served them. She thought she can be more proactive. So she went to her colleagues and asked them to share their diaries for the next days of who's coming to their office. And as technology improved and the age of information become more available, she researched these people to understand who's coming to the office the next day, every night. Her skill set became such a phenomenon that a lot of the clients that came through their door and that met with her and interacted with her start offering her jobs and even tried to headhunt her. The firm realized the value of her skills, her style, and her image to the company. So she became the highest paid receptionist in the city, but she didn't stop there. She continued to stay curious, and to improve her skill set, she realized that these skills she developed can be a commodity. And she started to give classes on weeknights and on weekend courses to other receptionists that want to be the best they can be. But these lessons and interactions with all these other receptionists also provide her with new insights, new challenges, and new solutions to be solved. The other story I'm going to tell now is about a young boy that left school and he had Down syndrome. He started working as a grocery backpacker in a local community supermarket. And after a couple of days, he realized that most customers did not acknowledge him when he gave them their bags or their trolley. People were awkward because of his genetic disorder. He asked, how can he make this better? How can he close this gap of awkwardness with these customers? He came up with an idea and bought little small cards, colorful cards. And every night he went and looked up a short motivational message, an inspirational quote, and in his beautiful handwriting, will write it down on these cards. Thank you for shopping at our supermarket and have a nice day, with a smiley face. Tom. We will put those notes in the bags of the customers, and when the customer unpack their bags, they'll find these notes and we'll put a smile on their face. And even like this note by Stephen Hawkins, look up at the stars, not down at your feet. Try to make sense of what you are and wonder about what makes the universe exist. Be curious. I think it's very applicable in our day and age. When customers unpack their bags every time and they find these notes, it created a new phenomenon at a supermarket. The clients start queuing behind Tom's pay point to get the motivational and inspirational quote of the day from Tom. The owner realized the importance and the potential of this personal touch and started to implement across the supermarket, at the bakery, the butcher, and the greengrocer, and even the staff up their game. The same principles, attitude and aptitude, the receptionist and this grocery packer applied and showed will remain relevant in the future. How can I be the best in what I do? How can I evolve in what I do to stay relevant? How can I change or adapt? And how can I disrupt my traditional thinking with innovative and reimagine my thinking? And how can I stay relevant? And what can I do to be great? This quote by Vincent van Gogh, great things are done by a series of small things brought together. It's very important in everything you do, even in a world of technology. And combine that with empathy. I can never not mention the word empathy because I think it's such a vital link between people on this earth and sometimes also creating the gaps. Empathy is the foundation of design thinking. With empathy, you can extract unique client insights, just as I've showed in these stories. In turn, create new building blocks for design thinking, make your products and services relevant. Very important to stay relevant in everything you do in your job. I can see and observe, not just in my own this, and especially in times where mental health becomes a challenge, especially in the day and age we live in. It's worldwide, it's not just in South Africa. It's amongst our kids, it's amongst our employees in different age groups. So there's not a selected, mental health don't just select a specific person. It can happen to anybody. We have to evolve and stay relevant. When you don't feel relevant, then it has a knock-on effect. Companies that master the art of empathy are able to disrupt the world and the world they live in. When you step into customers' shoes and see the world from their perspective rather than your own, you can leapfrog ahead of the competition. It's not just in business, it's also in your personal life, your personal position. Just always ask, how can I be the best? Reimagine your customer experiences. I think it's very important, especially as things change. You have to reimagine continuously. Consider the impact of competitive technology, widens the gap between organizations and people. Insurance companies are missing the urgency and big picture benefits of gap closing opportunities in the digital world. Importantly, the insights and opportunities hover where the blurred lines of the digital and the physical world meet. And I'm going to repeat that. The blurred lines of the digital and the physical world. People's got this fear factor that digital is going to take over my job, etc. There will always be an opportunity for an individual. Technology can't feel. It's a long way off before we'll get there one day. Technology can be 100% intuitive. We still service human beings on this planet, and we will still need humans to do that as well. And this is where the glaring gaps must be filled, to connect the proverbial dots. Being future-proof is about connecting the dots and mind the gap. In life, as you go along, there's always gaps being formed, and you must ask the question, how can I cross that gap? In summary, technology is transforming how people communicate and conduct business. Insurance technology can help boost information flows, real-time data, and value-added analytical capabilities on the one side and lower the cost of distribution and claims on the other side. But for me, the world of technology or InsureTech is to be risk facilitation platforms. And the humans in the insurance industry will become the risk facilitators. And with empathy, it connects you 24 hours a day to your customer. Evolution is not always about technology. This was explained in this in my stories as well. But the way to successfully navigating changing consumer dynamics or environment or risk, new risk that evolve. The only guarantee in life is that things will change. It's true with evolution of species, as in business, if you must evolve to thrive. And always ask yourself, how can I be the best in what I do? And as the slides say, everything is connected, even technology. Thank you very much for your time and listening to me.
Thank you so much for that, Wimpy. Thoroughly enjoyed your presentation. I really loved the introduction or inclusion of empathy in this ever-changing, ever-evolving world. So thank you for that. All right, on to our next speaker now. She's no stranger to InsureTalk. She goes by the name of Thokozile Mahlangu. She is the CEO of the IISA, and she's going to be giving us an update. So over to you, Thokozile.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Thokozile Mahlangu. It is yet another session of the InsureTalk. What a great platform to be able to sit back in the comfort of your own home or offices and absorb content that is meaningful and relevant to your personal development. The month of October marks an anniversary month for the IISA. As you may be aware, IISA traces its existence back to 1898 during the times of the Institute of Cape of Good Hope. IISA evolved over the many years, and we ended up being called the Insurance Institute of South Africa 55 years ago. So yes, 55 years of existence as the Insurance Institute of South Africa. Yes, the evolution carried on, and we ended up becoming a professional body. As you may be aware, we became an environment or a platform where the insurance education or insurance library was established. It evolved into becoming a college of insurance. And over the years, we then ended up being a professional body and no longer an education provider. Yes, we still do provide a platform for skills development as we do through webinars or through other platforms where we provide initiatives or activities that plug gaps in insurance skills development. So during the month of October, stay connected with us through our social media platforms, visit our website, especially our website, look out for emails from the office that will give you activities to look out for that remind you of who we are, what we do, and stand a chance to win amazing prizes. Some of the prizes will be limited to members of the IISA. Some of the prizes will be open to everyone in the insurance industry. And some of the prizes will invite you to become a member of the IISA. So you'll be able to be eligible for a prize, but the catch would be you'd have to consider being a member of the IISA. So why don't you use this opportunity to visit our website, click on the button that says become a member, become an IISA member upfront before the competition starts. You've got a few days. The 1st of October is around the corner, but you do have 2 days between today and the 1st of October to become a member and enjoy the rest of the prizes that will be made available to you. I want to repeat, visit our website on a daily basis, morning, midday, early afternoon. There will be prizes up for grabs on a daily basis. I repeat, every single day there'll be prizes to look out for. Visit our social media platforms on LinkedIn, on Facebook, as well as Twitter. Yes, we are also available on YouTube. We've got a YouTube channel. And yes, we're also available on Instagram. So take the time to visit all those platforms and engage with us and stand a chance to win a prize just purely because it's our birthday month. 55 years of existence. There are prizes that have a 55 attached to it. So why don't you take advantage of that opportunity by visiting our website, taking advantage of that, look out for our emails, visit social media, follow us if you haven't done so yet, engage with us, send us an email, send us suggestions, but most importantly, we have 55 years and we have been in existence purely because of the support of the industry, the support of our members, and the support of other industry players that believe in the vision and purpose of the IISA, which is investments in skills development and professionalizing the industry. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you so much, Thokozile. Sounds like there are some exciting prizes up for grabs. If you have not already done so, visit the IISA website to learn more about the competition. All right, on to our next speaker now, Tony van Niekerk, no stranger to these InsureTalk streets. He's going to be giving a talk on a digital transformation in Africa. Tony is, of course, the founder of Cover. Over to you, Tony.
Thank you so much. It's great to be sharing with you guys again. I'm so looking forward to sharing one of my passions with everybody at InsureTalk. So thank you very much. I just want to make sure if you guys can see my screen. I'm going to be talking about digital transformation in Africa. Now, just a small caveat, I've got 20 minutes to talk about something that is huge and something that one can talk about for hours, as we've done before at some of the conferences and events. But what I'm going to try and do is to simply share with you a few of the things that interest me and that makes me think about the massive opportunities that are available in Africa. Now, I must say I'm a little bit biased because I've been to probably about 23 African countries, and I've loved every single one of them. And so I'm a little bit biased in terms of my passion for what can be done in Africa. So if we, let me just share that screen. So if we just look at it, first of all, from a continent perspective, just to give you a couple of ideas. I mean, there's so many things that I could have shared here, but I think let's start off with saying there's 54 recognized countries. And there's an interesting book that is called Africa is Not a Country, because Africa is not a country. So many people think that it is. But if you travel around and you see that each of these countries are definitely a country on its own, and it's a continent with 54 countries, 1.373 billion people, 41% of them under 15, 52 is the average life expectation. Imagine the opportunities lying in that fact, just there, 52 years of age being the average life expectancy in Africa. Very low, and it leaves us open for so many things that can be done to improve that, even from our industry perspective. And then we look at 2.4 billion people in 2050. Now, for most people, that is like an immensely scary thought, 2.4 billion people. But if you think about the fact that despite the fact that we see these cities that are so crowded, there, Africa has got incredible space, incredible open space. The number of people per capita per kilometer is very small if you spread it. Now, this was a very interesting quote that I found on in some of the research that I've done. It's I'm convinced of the power of digital to transform the future of Africa, and we applaud countries that are already making necessary investments and in innovative reforms. Now, this came, as you can see there, from the World Bank Vice President for Eastern and Southern Africa. They definitely see the opportunity in Africa, and we are incredibly well positioned to be able to take advantage of that. Now, what I like most about Africa is that Africa, as I said, there is probably one of the most incredible leapfrog specialists in the world. Africa manages to always stay behind, and then all of a sudden just transform and just grab the new opportunities with open hands. So if you think about it, just besides the fact that, yes, landlines were big in cities across Africa, but basically Africa leapfrogged the landline. Most of the rural areas never went to landlines. They never even tried to get landlines into those areas. If you look at the mobile phone penetration that we've got in Africa, 614 million unique mobile subscribers by 2025. In 2019, we already had 477 million unique subscribers. If you look at mobile internet users, then just as incredible, 475 million mobile internet users by 2025. That's where our industry will lie, and that's where our business lies. If you look at mobile money users, 562 million accounts, and 64% of global value on mobile money comes from Africa, 64%. Crypto users in Nigeria, and I know what goes through your heads when I say crypto in Nigeria, but the fact is the adoption rate is what is so incredibly important. 21% of global crypto transactions happens in Nigeria via the Nigerian people. So incredibly adaptable, taking very, very easily to a new technology. So if we just look at InsureTech trends addressing the challenges, and this is particular to microinsurance, and I can here encourage you guys, have a look at the SendFree site that I got this from. It's an incredibly useful site. I use it a lot for research, etc. They do incredible research across the African continent. But if you, I've used this slide particularly to just show, and in the next slide I will explain, that the opportunities in technology doesn't lie in just one silo here or one silo there, etc. It is across the board in our industry. And it doesn't just apply, obviously, to microinsurance, but to every bit of insurance, right from microinsurance to the largest insurance. But the big thing is that technology helps us to overcome what it says there: lack of information on consumers, inadequate access to consumers, different and new consumer needs, consumers inexperienced with formal financial services, constrained business models. Now, these are traditionally the issues that prevented the global players, and especially the South African players, which had access to Africa. It traditionally prevented us from really getting ingrained into the African market. But now that we've got technology, lack of information is not a problem anymore. We used to struggle with ID numbers and addresses. Now, inadequate access to consumers, lack of information on consumers, those issues are being addressed by technology. One can now, instead of an address, use a geolocation. In other words, you can just pin them by their cell phone, and that's good enough to be able to say that's where the customer is. The same with identification. it's become much easier now to track and to identify a person because of the fact that there's such broad mobile penetration. The same thing goes for the different new consumer needs. I mean, Africa has been doing on-demand insurance for more than 10 years. People didn't even recognize it. They didn't realize it. Those were small things in the micro-insurance environment, such as the fact that when you get onto a bus, you can just click on your phone and you've got insurance for the bus trip. WhatsApp has become a big platform to do insurance, and they're doing WhatsApp insurance via WhatsApp by end to end, right from the start, tracking the customer, finding new business, right up until paying claims, and it's all done via WhatsApp. Long before we've even thought of doing that in South Africa. And it's highly transferable, and there's small businesses that are jumping on these opportunities and growing their penetration in the African market. So definitely, if you look at the opportunities in insurance in Africa, from small opportunities to very large opportunities, scalable opportunities, it's a matter of picking the low-hanging fruit if you wanted to start small, minimize the risk, and then have that scalability, etc. Now, if you look at all of these insurtech trends and the challenges that are being addressed, it's very clearly that the best way to look at whether you could do something in Africa and whether Africa is appropriate, which I think it applies to everyone in any event, is to just look at some sort of a holistic digitalization or digitization process. And it starts with, obviously, a bit of a strategic overview. Some soul searching, look at the purpose of your business, what it is that you would like to do, and do an environmental scan, look at where you fit in, where you would fit in, what would be the challenges that would be facing you, how does your business scale up, how does it look in terms of your competitors, etc. Capability audit. Africa is different. It's not the same as doing business in South Africa. In every country that you're going to, it's going to be different from another African country. And you're going to have the type of skills to be able to do it, which is also why you will see that most companies that enter Africa and that are doing business in the different countries in Africa partner with people in those companies. And it's an excellent way to get a bit of a footprint in those companies. Opportunity identification, evaluation, and selection. That's my favorite part of the whole game, is to look at what opportunities are available. And a lot of that, by looking at the various countries in Africa, you can identify what is available to you. Strategy to design, obviously looking at the previous 4 points and then designing where you're going through that. And the last one, which is probably the most difficult, especially, again, as I say, because of the fact in many of the countries, it's very, very different. Your implementation and management of projects, it does not necessarily work the way that you have experienced it to work. And you need to adapt to very specific environments when you look at Africa. But the fact is, it does not detract from the fact that Africa is an incredibly exciting place at the moment, and the opportunities are huge. So I'll end off with a nice quote again. To harness the full potential of the digital technologies and to take advantage of the energy and ideas of a young, dynamic population, the report, and that was a report by the World Bank, recommends that African governments develop partners African governments, development partners, and the private sector do the following: prioritize digital infrastructure, invest in science, technology, engineering, and maths skills, and then enhance the skills of workers to advance human capital. Africa is an incredibly innovative continent. If you've traveled Africa and you've looked at it, you can look at the innovation from the simplest day-to-day living things up to, as in our case, the insurance stuff, very, very complicated insurance and technical insurance stuff. The innovation that comes from there. Africa is sort of a place where you can still actually launch a product on a spreadsheet with the EXCO knowing about it. So don't think that Africa doesn't have opportunities. It is a maze of opportunities. So thank you very much for that.
Adapt or die, they say. Thank you so much for that presentation, Tony. Thoroughly enjoyed it. All right, it's time for a little bit of entertainment now. Dwayne Rockwell is no stranger here to InsureTalk. He's going to be doing a quiz which has been sponsored by CIB. But before we head into that, we've got a short note from the head of marketing at CIB, Shalene. Over to you.
CIB, as a proudly South African company, is excited to share the positivity that our amazing country has to offer. The media and society tend to mainly focus on the negative headlines that shock us, instead of radiating the feel-good, positive facts that exist in our beautiful country. At CIB, we've introduced an SA Fact campaign that highlights the scale and diversity of South Africa and encourages South Africans on the opportunities that exist. In partnership with InsureTalk and Dwayne Rockwell, we hope you find this quiz informative and learn something new about our incredible country. The winner will receive an 1,000 Rand take-a-lot voucher together with a South African flag, proudly sponsored by CIB. Good luck. Over to you, Dwayne.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will say a very, very warm welcome. It is now officially 11:15 on a beautiful Thursday morning, and my job, as our wonderful, wonderful Shalene just said, is to inform you, entertain you for the next 15 minutes or so. So what I'm going to do is quite simply say, are you in it? Are you in it to win it? Thank you so much for CIB for getting me on board this morning in terms of bringing this particular quiz and this opportunity to win that incredible 1,000 Rand take-a-lot voucher. What you need to do, I see over 1,000 people are now officially online. So I'm going to give you the opportunity, very, very simply, using a wonderful system called Mentimeter. I'm going to get myself out of the screen and I'm going to put this up on screen for every single one of you now. Please, to get on, I'm going to leave this up for an extended period of time to make absolutely sure that everybody is in it, on it, part of it, within it, and moving along with it, as CIB brings you one of the most informative, one of the most interesting, and I promise you, jaw-dropping questions and answers that you will have seen in a long time. So right now, you log into www.menti.com, and then the code is, of course, right there as well. You can see that in living color. Right next door to that, though, however, is a much easier way to get in. If you want to simply open up your camera on your cell phone, scan that over the QR code, you are then going to be in the CIB quiz. You will see all of the relevant information right in front of you. I'm going to leave this for a little while and tell you that not only about questions, but also about the ability to bring you a little bit of music and bring you some energy and bring you some gees and make sure that everything is moving and working and helping your grey matter to do exactly what it needs to do. I am, of course, like I said, going to leave that up just for about 50, 60 seconds. There we go. Why CIB? From Charmaine Lowe. Why CIB? Because they give the best service. Well, there we go. There it is. You heard it here first, right in the chat group. I'm going to ask everybody who's now logged in, and I see 1,000 people online. We better get a good number, a big number. I need a huge number because you are playing for 1,000 Rand Take-A-Lot voucher. We will give that away at the end of 9 questions. And like I said, whatever you do, make sure you're in it. Otherwise, you will not win it. I mean, this is dead simple, right? Now I need you to do the following for me. I'm going to very quickly take this off screen. Make sure I've now got 200 people online. I've got 200 people. I want you all please to send me some hearts. We've got more than 200, but only those 200 have sent me hearts. Everybody online, come on, to be perfectly needy. You guys know me from last time. I'm needy. I need the love. Show me some love. I'll then show you some love. We've got over 400 people, 350 people now online. I'm going to keep on going, and there we go, purely because of the fact that I want to make sure everybody is in it, okay? Remember, of course, it's about the music, it's about the energy, it's about the great questions, and it's about CRB bringing you some really, really fun questions and answers. You're going to learn something today. So unlike just about every other quiz I do, where you quite honestly learn nothing, today you probably will learn some stuff about this beautiful country that we call home. We are now, I'm going to do one thing again. I want to check very quickly. We are now, listen, over 400 people are in it. This is the good news. Even if you aren't in it right now and you want to get into it as we start the quiz, brilliant. Guys are sending me hearts in the chat group as well. Thank you so much. The hearts are flying in. This is literally the most hearts I've ever seen online. Ah, this is good. Okay, let's just do that for 15 minutes. You'll make my day completely. Then I'll get fired, however, because I will not have brought you the incredible quiz and the fun, the real fun. So if you want to talk to me, you can talk to me via Mentimeter, like you can see in terms of those hearts. And I'll tell you what I'm also going to do. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to put the comments on. I'm going to turn on the comments because now you also have the ability to send me a little message via the comment section. Woohoo, hearts, amazing, mind blown, all sorts of crazy stuff. And now we've got up to a really, really, really sweet number. No problem. I'm still having a couple of people asking for the code, and it was a very definite request to make sure we give you enough time. So the code itself, and in fact, I'd like to ask somebody who's in that chat group, if you want to in the chat group, okay, sorry, by the way, I think somebody said can't chat yet, but you can now. I've opened up the comments. Send the woohoos and the amazings. You can see those. If somebody would be so kind as in the chat group, just put the code for us as well, just in case somebody tries to get in a little bit later. Right, I've given you a sum total of 3 minutes now, 2.5 minutes to log in. So I'm going to make the assumption now purely because we are very restricted time-wise. Oops, yeah, you're right, I did. I just shrank dramatically. But there's a reason for that because all of the questions today are going to come to you right in front of you on your handset and also on screen. We've got over 400 people. 500, well, come on, guys, keep coming. Oh, this is great. Lots of flames, lots of amazings. Woo! Brought to you, like I said, by CRB. Hashtag YCRB. If you want to, during the course of this, please, in the comment section, tell me why CRB. I've seen some fantastic ones already. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you please to do the following. You're going to have to, any second now, you're going to have to put in, give me a second, you're going to have to put in your particular questions, okay? I want everybody, I'm going to reset those because some guys jumped in before I did. That was very sneaky, very sneaky. All right, so I'm going to go back very quickly. Right, first question's going to come up on screen. I don't know how you guys did that. That was very clever. All right, the one word that says South Africa to you. Braai. I told you guys yesterday. Braai, lekker, all of those things. It's fantastic. It looks amazing. You guys are really doing a sterling job. This is possibly my favorite slide because of the fact that this makes you feel good about being South African, number one. It makes you feel good about the fact that when you do think that things are just crazy, you think about this. Are we going to keep going? Some more. I've got 200 people who have already told me what they think. I'm not sure how you guys were entering before I even started. That was pretty genius. That was very clever. All right, clearly we're working with the A-team, right? The A-team is in charge. This is so helpful. In fact, have you noticed that it's shaped like a rugby ball suddenly? Eish! There's my favorite word, Aish. That is so South African. In the middle, whatever word lands up in the middle, that's the most popular one. I've got Rainbow Nation. I've got Yania. I've got Rugby, How's It, Lekker, Biltong, Ubuntu. No Castle logo. I don't see Castle. You might need to remember that just now for one of the questions. So we've got Rainbow Nation, How's It, Awe. Massacant. There we go. You guys are looking good, man. Right. We are now in it. I've got 500 people who have now put some sort of information on that slide. Douglas and the guys at CRB are going to love seeing what you came up with. The code is there. The questions are now going to start coming at you fast and furious. Please put in your actual name and surname. Name and surname. Otherwise, we've got no idea who to give the prize to if you win. We need name and surname, please. Or name, surname, telephone number, address, PO box. No, I'm kidding. I just need your name and your surname. Do what you need to do in terms of making sure if you win this. Somebody, Steffi Duplessis said every time he hears the phrase, hey, boot, I swear, I've just got goosebumps. Hey, boot, goosebumps. Right, looks like everyone's really good to go. Only 75 of you are shown, but I'm telling you that I've got almost 400 people registered. Right, then I love it. Charles Maduna has given me all these details. We haven't even started yet. And Charles Maduna said, I'm the winner. So well done to you, Charles. Let's now get to it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the CRB quiz. Brought to you, obviously, by CRB, fastest finger first. Where was South Africa ranked in terms of size of largest energy producers in the world in 2020? Now, here's the thing. Just think about load shedding when you're answering this. Are they 42nd, 53rd, 21st, or 71st in the world, right? There are over 200 countries in the world. Where do you think we are ranked? 42nd, 53rd, and remember, this is a feel-good South African quiz. Feel good, really positive energy, positive attitude, positive things we are going to bring you. The facts are all positive too. Where would you think? And you're going to be very surprised if you don't get this one right. All right, that generally means, ladies and gentlemen, that you had no clue and you were guessing. But the right answer is we are 21st. We are 21st in the world. Out of 200, over 200 countries, and listen, can you imagine how bad it is for the guys who are 180? They must never have power. Having said that, though, 21 in the world deserves a round of applause, I think. And also a round of applause to 92 people who got that right. We've got almost 400 people. Don't let me down now, guys. Over 400 people are logged in, ready to play. 2/3 of Africa's electricity is generated in Africa, in South Africa. There we go. How's that? Hey? 2/3 of Africa's electricity is generated right here in South Africa. Now, like I said, think about load shedding and then put this in perspective. It's really not nearly as bad as you think it is. In fact, it's damn good. It's 21st. Next question coming at you now. We've got 9 in total, and I've got about 6 minutes left to do it. I've got a huge amount of comments coming. South Africa is the largest manufacturer of motor vehicles in South Africa. How many motor vehicles did South Africa export in 2019? 58,000 units, 248,000, 368,000, or 120,000. What do you think it is? I was going to play you some car noises in the background, but I'll end up playing a really Vuma one, and then it'll be all for Toyotas. So I don't really want to go that route and I don't want to mislead you in any way whatsoever. Come on, talk to me. Some real classics. In fact, you know what? Here's a song by a guy called Black Coffee called Drive, just for this question. Check it out. You're now officially catching on to what this is about. It's about feel-good stuff. 368,000 units were sold in 2019. You've got to be joking. It's incredible. It really is. So, Black Coffee driving us home while you guys pat yourself on the back. Remember, it's about positivity. So when you're answering, think positively. There's a good idea. Question 3 of 9, and I'm really going to rock and roll with these now because I want to make sure we get all of these in and finish on a huge high. How many how many African countries are part of the G20? 3, 1, or 4? Right, how many countries, African countries, are part of the G20? 3, 1, or 4? You're going to be blown away when you see this one. Come on. 1,000 rands worth of Take A Lot voucher to be given away. Come on, talk to me. I've given you a lot of time on this one. I want you actually to go and look. So I've given you about 45 seconds, and I want you to hear the song. Time is up. Folks, are you ready? Check this out. Only one Everybody went for the 4, but the most positive answer there would have been 1. It is incredible. And I love this. I've got sunshine, food, Ubuntu, woo, they're all coming. Only one African country, check it out, South Africa, ladies and gentlemen, is the only one. Will you please give that statement a round of applause? I can't see you, but I can hear you. I can feel you. I can feel it. I really could. Well done. Let's keep on going. Right, let's get that music out of the way for a second. Go to question number 4. We are now rock and rolling like you've never seen. South Africa is the world's largest producer of platinum. True or false? True or false, right? While I'm doing that, here's another one people would request if they could. This is called Osama by Zex Bantwini. The most requested song everywhere in the country. I love the fact that people are putting all of their details in the chat group as well. I hope you put your right name in. South Africa is the world's largest producer of platinum. True or false? If you don't say true, I'm going to be very concerned because you should have got the idea by now. True, is it true? Is it true? 100%. Oh, look, that's close enough. 90%. There we go. Congratulations, you guys are killing it. 325 people said true, and 30 were wrong. Take that as a learning moment, people. A learning moment. Platinum, absolutely. This question is now about the JSE. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange is ranked where in terms of the largest stock exchanges in the world? As of July 2021, its market capitalization was $1.14 trillion. That's incredible. It really is. So now keeping that in mind, like I said, the question is quite simply this. You're about to see it come up. I love it. Guys are still talking to me about other ones. As quickly as you can, go. Where is JSE ranked in terms of size? Another song it's not ours. This song comes from Cameroon, but we've kind of taken ownership of it because of the 2010 World Cup. So while you're making your decision, 20th, 34th, 52nd, or 70th, what do you think? Come on, talk to me. You've only got 10 Oh, now I'm listening to the song. Oh, this is way too much fun. Come on, where do you think it is? Talk to me. 20, 34, 52, 70th. Oh, people, you are now learning. 236 of you got it right. 20th in the world. Seriously. Top 20. Dwayne, you can produce more energy than South Africa. Awesome. I don't know who said that, but I'll take it. Thank you. It's a massive compliment. It really is. Right, Waka Waka in the background, 6 of 9, and I'm stealing 1 or 2 minutes. Oh, I'm going to be in trouble. It doesn't matter though. Let's keep on going. Which 2 countries are the only ones to have hosted the cricket, soccer, and rugby World Cup? South Africa and New Zealand, England and Australia, South Africa and England. Listen, it's not going to be England and Australia. It can only be 1 or 3 here, right? So I'm giving you a clue because this is a proudly South African fact quiz. It's all about the facts that make you feel good, make you want to be South African, right? That's exactly what it is. People who aren't even South African are now answering going, yo, I wish I was one of them. 4 seconds left. Come on. Well, the absolutely correct answer is South Africa and England. 184 of you got it right. Not everyone who said Australia and New Zealand, Australia and England. No, really. Are you getting one of those? No chance. You're getting one. That's it. I'm done. Right. Let's keep on going. We are now at question 7 of 9. You've got 3 more opportunities to get the 1,000 Rand Take-A-Lot voucher brought to you by CRB in terms of sizes of economies of countries in Africa. Where is South Africa ranked? 1st, 2nd, or 3rd? Where do you think it is? Where do you think it is? Come on, talk to me. Okay, this is not proudly South African, but somebody just WhatsApped me, said, playing the song, please. So why not? In the background, a bit of Ed Sheeran, who was brilliant when he came to South Africa. I had to get it in somehow. 1st, 2nd, or 3rd in terms of sizes of economies of countries. Where's South Africa ranked? Come on. Only 3 seconds. Only 3. You see what happened there? It is, in fact, 3rd. A trick question. I know what I did. I got you into a mindset of saying, well, it must obviously be the top one because this is what we're doing. 3rd in Africa. 54 countries, we are 3rd. That takes my breath away just a little bit. And just there we go in terms of the first 2. First is Nigeria and 2nd is Egypt. There we go. This is pretty good. Really. And I must tell you, when I got given these questions by CRB, somebody just said, that wasn't very nice. Sorry. Yeah, you know what? I can't give you. Oh, sorry. I feel bad now. No, I don't. All right. Answer as quickly as you can. You got 2 to go to win a prize. The world's second largest brewing company is in South Africa. True or false? True or false? True or false? Come on, talk to me. Okay, guys, seriously, eh? Everybody who drinks beer, come on, talk to me. Remember, we talked about beer. I said right up front, Castle Lager, SAB. You guys know, it's incredible. I'm going to give you some details about them as well. Come on, let's have a look. True or false? We've got 11 seconds left. All right, here's the thing. If you didn't say true, you were wrong. If you said false, you're now looking for a way to change your vote on the cell phone, which unfortunately, winner, chicken dinner. Somebody who likes Guy Fieri. True is absolutely right. The world's second largest brewing company. Check, there it is. Check. Hey, where's it? There. It is true. 316 of you say it's true, and you are all right. South African Breweries, officially the South African Breweries Limited, informally SAB, is a major brewing headquartered in Johannesburg, South Africa, and was a wholly owned subsidiary of SAB Miller until its interests were sold to Anheuser-Busch InBev on 10th of October 2016. South African Breweries is now a direct subsidiary of Anheuser-Busch InBev SA NV. Huge company, massive. All right, listen, we are here to educate and entertain. Final question, people. If you're not already winning this, you've got one last chance. Come on. South Africa is the only country in the world where right-hand drive cars are produced by Mercedes-Benz. Do you hear that? You check it out? Did you get that? You got that? Come on, easy. Somebody said, I enjoyed the last question. It got me drunk already. Brilliant. Brilliant. We came, we saw, we conquered. Here we go. False. Razia Khan. Guys are actually answering in the chat group as well. You're killing me. This is brilliant. You've only got 7 seconds left. South Africa is the only country in the world where right-hand drive cars are produced by Mercedes-Benz. It is, ladies and gentlemen, the final 1 second of the quiz. Let's have a look. It is 100% true. 216 of you got it right. And you can see again, there it is, 216. Yeah, the distance between the green tick and the red cross, you can see, is not very big. You guys didn't buy that one, did you? And then somebody said, you are making me list for braai vleis and braai. I'm with you, my bud. Name the time and the place. Let's have a look and see who our winner is. I hope they put their full name. I really do. They did. Will you please, online and otherwise, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, will you please give it up for IISA Kogela? So well done, well done, well done, well done. I will say there's the round of applause, and here you go. Every sound effect I've got, just for those people. Well done. There we go. The crowd went absolutely insane. And I've got to say, well done to IISA Kogela. We are apparently from SW Insurance Brokers. That was the quiz. That was the proudly. And we're not really supposed to use proudly South African, but we are proud to be South African. And those phrases and those questions and answers really made me proud. I hope you had some fun. I hope you entered. And I hope you are IISA, because you've got yourself a 1,000 Rand Take a Lot voucher. I've had a huge amount of fun. Thank you to CRB for getting me involved. I really hope I see you guys all again real soon. Bring you some more of this crazy, crazy cool stuff. Thank you very much. Back to the studio, and thank you guys. That was lots of fun. You guys were great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dwayne. One word for you, high energy. That was amazing. And our attendees absolutely enjoyed it. So much activity happening in the chat function as well. So huge thank you to you. Look, if you don't know why CIB after this quiz, then I really don't know. A huge thank you to you, Dwayne, once again. And congratulations to IISA for winning that prize. All right, over to our next speaker now. He goes by the name of Kevin Distiller. He is the MD and organizational psychologist at Odyssey, and he's going to be talking to us about hiring right for a future fit workplace. Over to you, Kevin.
Thanks very much. That's a great introduction. It's been a very interesting conference for me. It's a bit different to what I normally talk at and I normally am involved in. So guys, I hope you guys enjoy the talk that I've put together here. Let me just share my presentation with you. There we go. All right, let's just close all of these. Okay, excellent. So there's a lot of detail and depth that goes into this subject, and I'm going to try to keep it relatively kind of light for all of you guys. Obviously, I work very much in the space of organizational psychology, and we at Odyssey do a lot of work in hiring young job seekers in our country, but in a bunch of other emerging economies as well. Okay, and my presentation, there we go. Okay, I think the first thing I just wanted to start with is a large part of my presentation is going to revolve around AI, technology, machine learning, and those sorts of interventions and new elements that have kind of entered all our worlds. And I thought it was important just to start with the definition of what artificial intelligence is. It's a phrase that's kind of used a lot out there in the world, and a lot of us kind of picture these robots walking around, working independently. But really, all AI is when you build an artificial neurological network, and it's underpinned by a multitude of statistical algorithms to emulate the human mind. So, we were talking about it in our office the other day. We're doing a lot of machine learning here, but the machine actually doesn't do any learning. What it really takes is people sitting with the machine, coding words, and kind of teaching the machine how to interpret certain things. And once you've built this neurological network, then the machine gives the impression that it is thinking independently, but it's really all driven by these algorithms. And clearly, if you get into the AI space, some of these are extremely complex and do kind of self-learn. So it does almost take on the mind of like a person, but it's really nothing more than just artificial neurological networks. Okay. So now let's talk about the impact that AI is going to have on the economy and on job destruction or growth. Firstly, McKinsey reckons that depending upon various scenarios, automation is going to displace millions of people by 2030, which means that a large number of people are going to have to switch job categories entirely. And as I talk about this, just bear in mind that I always think about the dichotomy of when you get international research and then you need to bring it home and looking at the context of what happens here in South Africa. The Brookings Institute suggests that even if automation only reaches 38% of what people predict, it's going to lead to some sort of authoritarian policies to deal with civil chaos, etc. I'd like to think there's other things governments can do to help, mitigate the impact of AI on the job market. This is a very interesting slide for me. It's quite complex when you look at it initially, but in essence, all it's really trying to show you is how different jobs are going to be impacted by automation. The jobs towards the top, you can see almost 100% of that role can be automated. And as you move down, you'll see there are other jobs where it's going to be harder to automate. And I've got other slides later on that'll give a little bit deeper insight into how this all works. Okay. But basically, all these changes we're seeing are going to require fundamental shifts in what the workforce of the future is going to look like in the digital age. And I would argue the digital age is literally here right now. Okay. Let's look at our reality. A lot of the time people talk about the fourth industrial revolution as if it's something new, something that we've never seen before. But in essence, this has happened previously. You can see the last three industrial revolutions also had a massive impact on society and on the way that we do things. The first industrial revolution was in about 1750, and that involved steam engineering, mechanical automation, and you can imagine the impact that had on the world and on the way people worked, and I suppose the jobs people did as well. We then had our second industrial revolution, which is the one we all think about: industrialization, assembly lines, division of labor, etc. And I think we all know exactly what that did to the way people work, to people's well-being at work, and to how society operated. Our third industrial revolution was when we started with smart computing, cyber physics, electronic automation, etc. And now I think what makes the fourth industrial revolution a little bit unique is the number of technologies that are around and that are impacting it. There's some interesting literature out there that talks about how all these technologies are moving us forward, but because there's so many of them, it's moving us forward in a way that no one can predict. And they're all kind of building on each other. And I just wanted to put there under the artificial intelligence and robotics, you can see the different types of AI that is out there. The first is our big data mining, which is quite generic, and that's an example that would be something like Google. We then have the big data mining that happens within organizations, and I think this will probably be quite real to a lot of you guys, which is where you start to use AI to assist with credit ratings and things like that. We then have our third level, which is where the AI starts to see and hear. And there's some interesting documentaries on Netflix and other places where you can see the impact this has on crowd control and on how society is monitored. And then lastly, we get our full robotics, which is our fourth level of AI. So you can see it's a continuum from simple AI all the way up to complex AI, but ultimately AI is here, and it's going to impact a lot of what we all do. This is another very nice model just to understand the impact AI has on work. You can see that we've got a combination of cognitive versus routine work, and then cognitive and manual work versus routine and non-routine work. And you can see that at the bottom level, you've got very manual and routine jobs, such as factory floor type work, construction, etc. Clearly, they're very easy to automate. You then get routine cognitive work, call centers, office assistants, sales agents, etc. And I think there we can already see, I mean, all of us know about chatbots and technologies such as that. A lot of those roles are starting to fall away as well, or starting to change significantly. You know, in call centers these days, call center agents need to kind of do a little bit of everything, and they need to be comfortable working in writing as well. And we all will engage a lot more with chatbots in the future. Our cognitive and routine jobs are, our management, healthcare professions, engineering, and aged care protection. Those are more sort of non-routine roles. Some of them, like aged care protection, is a bit more manual. Others are more cognitive, and those roles are a little bit harder to automate as you progress into the future. We can also look at this in terms of creativity and compassion. You can see when creativity is high and compassion is high, such as psychologists, that's obviously a little bit harder to automate than when creativity is low and compassion is low, such as assembly line work, data capture clerks, diggers, etc. Interestingly enough, I think a lot of us think of some of our professional roles as being very important and quite difficult to replicate, but we already know that AI can do certain work, like pharmaceutical work, legal work, that sort of thing can be automated quite well as well, quite easily as well. Okay, so this leads me to talk about competencies of the future. And when we look at the World Economic Forum, the top 10 skills that will be in demand in the future, according to the World Economic Forum, you can see if you just take a look at them there. These are far away from that routine stuff we're talking about and far away from just understanding content. You can see this builds a lot on those traditional, what we think of as sort of soft skills. You can see it's about critical thinking, creativity, managing people, emotional intelligence, showing judgment, having a service orientation, negotiating, and being flexible on a cognitive level and being able to adapt. These are the things that we're going to have to start displaying in the future, and that people wanting to enter the workforce are going to have to be very good at, because all the other stuff that we had previously is going to start to get automated as time moves on. We can also look at what some of our clients are asking us to measure. And you can see a lot of what we saw in this previous slide comes through again, but in actual fact, this is in the last kind of year or so. Our clients are asking us to measure all these things you see here. And again, a lot of them are those soft skills like empathy, learning agility, collaboration, managing conflict, influencing, customer orientation, digital mindsets, commercial savvy, etc. So you can see there's a more sort of complex skill set that the workforce of the future is going to have to start demonstrating. Well, what about the youth and the disenfranchised? Because as I said, I always think about what do we see when we look at the research and the literature, and then what do we see when we start to try delve into, deep dive into some key areas. So this is quite an interesting slide. I found this, it was the Global Business Coalition for Education, and it's quite a damning slide. This is obviously an international slide, but you can see that even in 2018, 54% of young people hadn't heard of the Industrial Revolution. 39% felt that their formal schooling hadn't prepared them correctly for the skills that they're going to need to get the jobs that they want. 79% felt that they needed to go outside of their formal school to get the skills that they needed to get. 79% felt that their career interests did not align with the jobs that were available in their communities. And a third of the youth said their college or university did not prepare them with the skills for the jobs they wanted. Hold your breath, because I'm going to show you a slide now that should be quite concerning for all of us. Okay. So now we come back to South Africa. And this is just a picture that, we often see. I think this has gotten a lot worse in the last year for various reasons. But we already have large numbers of people that are struggling to get work right now. and that is only going to increase. Our key socioeconomic challenges in our country is that we've got massive inequality. We know this, high levels of unemployment, but we also have an oversupply of unskilled workers. However, what's really interesting is there's a shortage of high-skilled workers in our market. So we all know it's very hard to find really strong, capable people to fill the jobs we have in our organizations. But there's a disparity there because outside, when you look in the street, there are lots and lots of people just desperate for an opportunity. And if I just talk about some of the work we do, we assess learners, graduates versus that sort of thing. And it's amazing to me. I can see candidates that apply to be pickers and packers at Pick and Pay, but they also apply to a Vodacom graduate program, and they also apply to a call center agent. They apply to everything because they're just so desperate for an opportunity to work. Our learnerships out there, they're supposed to be for grade 12 students, but a lot of them, you've got people with degrees and qualifications that are applying for those sorts of opportunities, which just shows you how difficult it is to enter the workforce. This is the slide I was talking about earlier. This is the challenge of youth unemployment in our country. Youth unemployment, the rate is doubling. It's double that of the adult unemployment rate. And this is quite an old slide now. I think we all know that this 48% of youth unemployment when this slide came out, I think it's now closer to 60%. When you look at unemployment percentages by education level, you can see that 56% are people that haven't finished school. Matriculants, almost 1 in 2 struggle to work. People with diplomas, it's a massive unemployment rate. Even our graduates, I think now it's 9%, but ultimately a large proportion of the graduate population out there struggle to work. And of the 1.1 million people young people entering our labor market each year, 6% enter formal employment only, 8% into informal employment, 29% basically just give up, 35% become unemployed, but they keep looking, and 21% go study further. So this is a massive challenge for all of us. And I don't necessarily have all the answers, but it's just something for us to think about. This is another picture that talks about that big divide that I was discussing earlier. We've got massive inequality, high levels of numeric ability, digital maturity, economic and IT knowledge required for the work that we do, all those soft skills I was talking about previously. But then we have a large number of people trapped through low literacy, low numeric skills, low creativity, and low compassion jobs available for them. There's also a challenge that we face. At one of our conferences, our Society for Industrial Organizational Psychology conferences, Trevor Emmanuel came to talk to us, and he mentioned that there are large parts of the country that he can go to and talk at any day, any time of the week, and fill out halls because there's just no one that works in those economies. And now you think about those kids coming from those places where there's just no role models, nothing to look up to, and they have to enter this really digitally mature, complex workplace. It's a serious challenge we all need to think about. Okay, so with all of this in mind, we went and we looked at all this research and we built a future fit model of skill. And I'm just going to talk you guys through it. This is the ultimate model. All the research that we see coming internationally focuses on your very top level, what we've called transforming skills. However, we've built a foundation underneath us that we think we need to focus on as a country to be able to kind of move people through this pipeline. Our first foundation is the foundational skills. And these are the skills required to be able to enter the workforce in the first place, learn new tasks quickly, work independently, etc. And these include very simple things, the ability to understand numeric information and incorporate this into our decision-making, the ability to understand and respond to written communication and information provided to us, the ability to learn from the feedback we get and to incorporate this into learnings into future actions, and then an interest and ability to execute basic administrative tasks accurately. And when we assess, this is the first level we assess, even in large graduate programs across the continent actually, the first thing we look at is, do people have these basic skills in place? Because without this, the rest doesn't really matter. Once we've got these skills in place, we then look at our thinking cluster. And here, these are the skills we need to think critically, and to isolate the problem and develop novel but realistic solutions. And I think, bearing in mind with an AI world, how much is automated out there and how much is kind of given to us, I think we can all think back to the days. I mean, I know I can, when I was at varsity doing statistics by hand. And obviously now you don't do anything by hand anymore, even going to a library and finding a journal article. You don't have to do it that way anymore. The data is there, the information is available. And how do you take this information and work with it? And I'll talk a little bit more about this before I break this down. My personal opinion of a key challenge for our youth is all the stuff we see on social media. There's all this information out there, but the challenge we have is we think that if it's been posted, it must be true. So that need to learn to be analytical and to be critical and to look at something and try to identify the gaps in what you're seeing. I think that's the key thing that the youth of tomorrow is going to need. The data is there. Understanding where to get it's not the problem. It's how to interpret it and how to understand what is real and what is not. That's the key challenge. So in our thinking cluster, we need people that are curious and have a hunger to know and learn. We need people that can analyze. They spend time thinking, contemplating, and reflecting. They're logical and rational, and they distill information to logical conclusions. We then need creativity. I think if you think back to those skills I glossed over quite quickly earlier on, that need to be creative, to challenge traditions and experiment, to be able to come up with unique insights, generate innovative solutions. This is going to be critical going forward. Business acumen is also very important when you enter the workplace. You need to be able to come up with strategies and business models, to understand profit drivers and revenues, to understand how the market and the competitors work. This is important to be able to create value and compete in the environment out there. And then lastly is dealing with complexity. I think why this is so important, again, there's so much that goes into a concept such as dealing with complexity, but I think what AI has really done is it's made the world a lot more complex. The simple tasks are being taken away. Again, if I just think of myself, in the early days, I spent a lot of time administering assessments, hand scoring them and writing reports and then giving feedback. There's no need for that anymore. The machine and the computers can do all of that for me. Now the challenge is how do I take this, turn it into meaningful insights for my clients, help them hit their strategies and employ the correct people, etc. It's a much more meaningful type of work, but it's a much more complex type of work as well. And that's just in my space. I can imagine everyone can think of how their work has become more complex. And kind of going forward, whatever people do is going to be extremely complex because the machines are going to be able to do all the simple things for us. We then have our relating cluster. And this is really our personal attributes, the social skills and the communication abilities that support interpersonal relationships and interactions with others. And again, if you think back to how work has changed, there's very little work these days that you do independently. If I look at this first component here, this communication, there's very few roles when we sit with people and say, what are you looking for? Very seldom do people not want people that can communicate their thoughts and ideas and opinions, that have an interest in spending time and communicating with others, that collaborate and work in teams and build things together, that can influence and support, and that can empathize and build relationships. The way work has changed, you can even, if you just drive past Investec and you see that whole new wing they've built, that's all meeting rooms. The days of sitting in offices and working on your computer as a sole contributor, those days are over. To be able to be effective and to have sustainable impact in the world of work, you have to be able to relate with others. Now, assuming you've got your foundational skills in place and you've got your thinking cluster in place and your relating cluster in place, the last piece of the puzzle here is transforming. And this is the skills and attributes that are required to thrive in the fourth industrial revolution. And I'll go through these a little bit slower. The first one is to take initiative. Initiate, shape, transform the environment, and take control of situations. I think with all the information out there and all this data and everything else that comes, all the stakeholders you have to work with, I think it's one of our challenges is to get into a bit of an analysis paralysis kind of cycle. To be able to initiate action, shape, and transform is going to be critical going forward. Then we have this concept of a digital mindset. Understanding complex problems using technology, developing and automating innovative solutions to these problems, usually through applying systems. This is the next key step. Again, if I just think of myself, this concept of workflows, digitization, systems thinking, it's become an everyday thing in the work that I do, and I think it's going to become an everyday thing in the work that most people do. We're going to have to understand how when you automate something, the impact that has kind of going forward into the future. We then have our leadership orientation, and that's the ability to take ownership, inspire, and lead others and set strategic direction. The entrepreneurial mindset is critical because to be able to go forward, we're going to have to be entrepreneurial, to be able to seize opportunities, conceptualize how things are going to work, sell concepts, whether it's to our colleagues, to our clients, to our team members, to our bosses, and we're going to have to be able to implement those solutions. We're all going to have to do a little bit of, what's what I'm going for? Like multitasking and being able to work across the board a little bit, because you're going to have to work with various people and there's going to be lots of levers to make things happen. Influencing is critical. I've spoken about that already. And then there's the need to adapt. We've heard it this morning already, how change is the new normal. And I think we all learned last year how quickly we can adapt. One day we were all going to the office. The next day we were all online. It happened like that. And we all had to just adapt and make it work. And we proved to ourselves that we can do it. But that need to adapt quickly and effortlessly, that's going to be something that's going to be part of the world going forward, regardless of what else happens out there. And then lastly, our customer centricity is very important. To be able to interface with clients, to keep customer service top of mind. Again, when I think of my clients, almost every single role we look at, people want employees that can sell and that can service customers. That's like the number one thing that kind of goes across the board in every organization. Everybody thinks it's unique to their DNA, but it's something they're all trying to do. Okay, so I know this is a slightly different sort of presentation to what you guys are used to, and I know I went through it relatively quickly, but if you need any more information on this sort of thing, you're welcome to contact me. And I think outside of the presentation, all I'm going to say is we need to think quite critically. There's a lot of detail I kind of ran through quite quickly there, but I think for me, in the work that we all do, and I think for you guys in insurance, it's how do you bring these people in? Those 18 million people out there that have no credit history. How do we bring them in and make them part of the world that we have going forward? How do we find ways to empower these guys and make them part of our economy? Taking the disparity, taking what AI is undoubtedly going to do. One of the things that I would really like to believe is that governments can do certain things to encourage us to employ people and not automate. But I often get told that I'm a little bit of an idealist. And in a capitalist society, automation is the way of the world. So we have to find a way to deal with these disparities going forward. Okay. Thank you for your time. I know I've gone through that very, very quickly. That was all I wanted to share with you. And I hope I've given you something to think about, something a bit different to what you normally are kind of used to, and that I've added something to your conference. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for that presentation. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I'd like to just take this moment to commend you and your team for the amazing work you are doing. Do continue in that trajectory. Just a reminder that InsureTalk17 will take place on the 28th of October between 10 and 1. It has been accredited for 2.5 CPD hours. We have posted the registration link in the chat, so do yourself a favor and head on over to register early. All right, on to our last speaker for the day. It has just gone by so fast. We're going to introduce our last speaker. She goes by the name of Christelle Frost. She is the Chief of People at Genesis, and she's going to be talking to us today about employee engagement and success in the new world of work. Over to you, Christelle.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. Much appreciated. And thank you for the invitation. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today. I am just quickly going to share. Screen shared. Going to hope for a thumbs up from someone. Thank you. Sorry about that. So, firstly, thank you to the previous speaker. I think that was such a valuable insight in terms of where South Africa currently is. And there's an old English expression that is sometimes referenced as a much older alleged ancient curse that states, "May you live in interesting times." And irrespective of whether or not that statement did in fact come from a curse or not, I think we can certainly say that for the past couple of months, we have been living in very interesting times with some significant challenges. When the pandemic broke in 2020 and the world went into chaos and lockdown, both individuals and companies were forced to adapt to a remote working culture, in many cases overnight, definitely so in South Africa. And while we always had advocates and champions of remote working, majority of companies were very concerned and feared the worst. And here we sit more than a year later, and the belief that there's always been that productivity and success is measured by bums and seats and traditional working models has been proven incorrect. Our forced exercise in and experiment in remote working has proven successful. And we see today that we can, in fact, work in a more non-traditional fashion. And that's the new world of work that we're entering into. We have technology readily available. We can work from anywhere, anytime. We can connect globally like we've never before. We've got the fourth industrial revolution. And in many cases, people are even talking about the fifth industrial revolution that's on its way. So while we've been forced to participate in this beautiful, my screen won't go, in this beautiful global experiment in remote working, studies are showing that it worked. A 2020 study conducted by the human resources consulting firm Mercer indicated that employers were reporting the same levels of productivity during remote working as before that, and in some cases even increased productivity. And if we take a look at our global trends, then we can see that a vast majority of surveys have been conducted, and all supporting the statement that if it's successful, we want more of it. And we see today that employees and job seekers are increasingly asking for more flexibility, for a hybrid working model, or for a full remote working model. And it's important to note that while our previous studies have always shown that flexibility has been front of mind, this is now starting to shift more towards remote working and hybrid working. Studies are indicating that more than half of job seekers are currently viewing remote working as the most desirable benefit. And more than 50% of employees are indicating that they'll shift from their current employers in order to get a more flexible arrangement. So this is not something that can be unheard, and it's something that needs to be considered moving forward. If we look at the trends in South Africa, we see similar trends. More than 50% of South Africans want a hybrid work model. Even as high as 44% of South Africans opting for a full remote model. And as many companies have determined, if remote working is as effective as it is in office, why not? And it's then no wonder that we're seeing that many large South African enterprises are actually moving towards a permanent hybrid model. We see companies such as Woolworths and RMB and our large banks, Dimension Data, all moving towards adopting some form of a hybrid model. And with this, there's also the opportunity for more hybrid and fully remote positions. I frequently do small tests on job boards and social media to see how many positions there are available that are fully remote. And the number obviously shifts. But when I did the exercise yesterday on LinkedIn, just randomly looking at remote software developers in South Africa, we had a total of 170 pop up. Now that number has been anywhere as high as to 220 to 250, depending on the day that I've looked at that. So if we view this, then there's a core trend that's coming out in terms of one, remote and hybrid working is definitely successful, but also that this is a trend that employees and job seekers are actively looking for. In considering this, though, and our shift towards more hybrid models, there's a need to consider the fact that what works for one is not going to work for all. Not all employees are looking for fully remote options. In fact, most are indicating their preference towards a hybrid model. In a 2021 BCG study conducted globally, 89% of survey participants indicated that they are looking for either fully or partially remote type of opportunities. However, only 24% of those would like to work from home permanently. The rest opting for more of a hybrid approach. So if we consider that, it's quite clear that there is no one size fits all. A hybrid model that's going to work for one company is not going to be the same for the next. It's up to each company to determine what is it that they need, what are their business functions, what are the needs of their clients and the needs of their employees in determining what works or not. There's no ideal model that we can reference. There's certainly some lovely guiding principles and some best case practices in terms of what you need to consider in this process. But how you implement the model and what it eventually looks like is going to be very unique for each company. If we look at a company like Nedbank that have quite recently launched their hybrid model, their permanent hybrid model, for them, this looks like a 60-40 hybrid and blended approach, where 60% of their people are going to be fully on site, whereas 40% are going to be hybrid, being either fully remote or partially remote. The benefits obviously increased flexibility, but also a decrease in office space. So that is what works for them. That is not necessarily going to work for the next company, and that's important to note. In our determination of what we need, we then also need to consider the benefits and the risks that are associated with remote working. There are countless surveys that can expand on the benefits of remote work. And I think we all from our own experience and from our experience within our companies know what this is. We have, on an employee front, we have the opportunity for greater flexibility and more autonomy and self-management. As we move through a phase where we need to manage our own time and our own workspace, that obviously increases those feelings. We potentially have better work-life balance, not all of us, but we potentially have this if we can determine what effective work from home practices are. And we see an increased quality of life through reduced commuting time, which conversely then has the other flip side of the other benefit of reducing our carbon footprint and being a better contribution towards the environment. For employers, we see a reduced need for office space with remote working and all the related costs that come with that. We have access to a broader talent pool. Human resources and HR and hiring managers now no longer just engage with the people within their geographical regions. Those constraints are now lifted, and we engage with the broader South Africa or even globally for work that would generally have been conducted in office. We see increased productivity and positivity and a reduced absenteeism and staff turnover as staff are able to better manage their own time and their availability. But considering the fact that we've got a multitude of benefits, there are also some risks and challenges that we need to consider. And maybe these are the ones that are a bit less reported on. There are countless studies and there are countless articles, but the benefits certainly do seem to come through stronger. And in implementing a hybrid model and promoting remote work, we need to consider as companies what those risks are and how we can mitigate or fully eliminate them. So, and the important thing to consider is that when you work remotely, it requires both a physical and a mental adjustment. And in failing to align with that adjustment, we can create a detrimental impact in the long term on our physical as well as mental well-being and are resulting in poor work-life balance. When we work in office, we have a much clearer defined delineation of work and home. We have a workspace where we have a work chair, a work desk, a phone, and if you're anything like me, a work coffee mug, probably 2. And that is how you are set up. And when you work from home, there's that same need to have a space that is comfortable and efficient, where you have the right equipment, the right access to data, connectivity, and the ability to do your work soundly. We have many jokes around being able to work from your bed, but in the long term, that is not an effective model. And failing to implement a proper structure and a proper place to work will eventually have a detrimental impact on productivity, engagement, and work-life balance as the lines between workspace and home space starts blurring more and more. From a mental front, for most of us, when we leave our actual office, when we were on site for the day, we have a shutdown routine, whether or not we realize it or not. It's that space where we move from work mode to non-work mode. For me, it's always been getting in the car and driving home. Previously, having worked in Bryanston before we went into lockdown, and living in Pretoria, that can be an extremely lengthy process for anyone who knows William Nicol and understands that can be, that shifts based on the mood that William Nicol is in on any specific day. So that's a period for me to move into that non-work space. It's not perfect. Sometimes I'd still be taking work calls and thinking about work matters. But in most instances, there's the opportunity to listen to music, to phone a friend and connect a bit, to catch up on the news on 702, to hear what's going on in the world, and to shift the away from the day and the work that you've been going through. And what I personally found, and what I've been discussing with a lot of people as we move through this new normal, is that they've lost their that shutdown period at the end of the day. And while there's a lot of benefits, and while they'll tell you what the benefits are of remote working, that is something that they're missing, because there's that shift in moving from the one to the other that's missing. And if we fail to miss this, it can lead to an inability to shut down and having an always on mindset, always being available, always being watching your phone, thinking about work, working excessively long hours, obsessing about work and going into obsessive work routines, leading to very poor work-life balance and eventual burnout. And of course, with that comes reduced productivity and reduced energy levels and reduced motivation. So that's a very significant risk. And then, of course, it goes without saying that you cannot regulate your work-life balance if you're stuck in this mode. And if we consider all of this, I suppose it goes without saying that in the past 2 years, we've seen a significant increase and focus on mental health awareness and wellness, where studies conducted, and I'll list one very recently conducted by Qualtrics, identified that 42% of people have experienced an increase in mental illness challenges, or we could say a decline in their mental wellness. Of this, 57 experienced increased anxiety levels, and 67% experienced increased stress levels, with a quite high number of 28% indicating that they are having trouble concentrating and completing tasks. I suppose it doesn't sound that high, but if you're thinking that that's potentially 28% of your staff component, that does get quite high. In South Africa, the South African Society of Psychologists has labeled mental illness as the single biggest threat in 2021. And that is a very real threat for us as individuals, but also for companies. In considering all of the above, then companies are still faced with all of that and still maintaining a shared culture and team cohesion and a shared vision. And while technology has certainly increased our ability to connect with each other and to discuss and to engage, whatever the time and however, most companies are reporting that from an engagement perspective, they're battling to get things going the way it was in the past. So if we weigh up the benefits of remote working, as well as our market trends, the success of remote working, and the desire of the workforce to have more hybrid and flexible options against the risk, then it's quite a daunting process finding something that works for you and the company without having a severe impact on the business. This isn't something that you can achieve overnight. It isn't something that's an easy fix. And this is reflected in studies as well. During as recently as a May 2021 McKinsey & Company survey, it was found that 68% of the C-suite executives that had been surveyed did not yet have a clear plan in terms of what their permanent hybrid work plan would be and what that would look like. So something to consider in that it's not that easy. The necessitating factor here, though, is the fact that it is where our market is heading. It is where our industries are heading and where our workforce are heading. And it is a factor that we need to consider. So perhaps we should consider, despite the fact that we've got a plethora of factors that companies need to consider in order to remain successful within this new world of work, we need to consider the impact that our teams and the individuals in our company have on that success and that performance, and aligning to ensure that they are managed towards engagement, success, and high productivity. So perhaps the most critical aspect, if we consider this, is managing with empathy within this changing world. The ability of leaders to manage with a sense of empathy and humanity. And while this has always been a skill that's been sought after and expressed, where we're heading now in terms of our increased stress levels, anxiety, and mental and related mental wellness challenges, it's becoming even more profound that is needed. Historically, there's been a lot of articles and surveys around the negative thinking from companies, viewing this type of management style as a soft approach, something that is a way of avoiding the difficult conversations or avoiding dealing with negative behavior in the workplace or poor performance, which is certainly not the case. If we speak about managing with empathy, it's around a leader's ability to manage with a sense of emotional and cognitive empathy in order to connect with their teams and better understand their teams and where they're coming from, and then to act on that empathy and put that into some sort of action plan. Now, in stating this, I think it's clearly acknowledged that we need to be able to give our managers a bit better support in terms of managing this changing landscape. And that's why it's important that we consider management development programs that look at the changing ways of the world, that look at managing in a more empathetic manner, and that deal with the challenges of managing a hybrid workforce. If we then consider this, it speaks to the need to focus more on mental health and wellness in order to support employees better. The impact of the pandemic highlighted the need for this. And in surveys conducted by Gartner in 2020, it was established that by May 2020, 68% of companies surveyed had already implemented one additional wellness benefit or form of support in order to support their employees through this period. And a critical component of such support is also to enable our teams to understand what it means to put effective working from home and hybrid working practices in place, to self-manage their time, to manage their stress levels, to manage that switch on, switch off process, and to ensure that they remain engaged and productive as well, and not work themselves towards burnout. Supporting flexible and remote working opportunities is becoming an increasing importance. Obviously, we've already discussed remote working opportunities and what that brings. But with that also comes the need to consider how flexible we work. We've seen with our current working styles that a traditional bum and seat 8 to 5 approach is not necessarily the best option. Work can be done anywhere, potentially at any time, as long as it gets done. So that flexible arrangement also starts coming into discussion. And with that, of course, comes the need to consider what our performance management structure looks like. If we're changing our ways of working, we're moving towards remote working opportunities, flexible arrangements where we measure outputs as opposed to work completed and hours worked, then we start looking at a performance structure that needs to align with something that is more output-driven, more metric-driven, and more of a continuous focus, as opposed to this annual or biannual performance evaluation event that happens. And to move towards something that is a bit more fluid, that is a continuous feedback model where performance can be addressed on a daily basis, where managers have ongoing discussions with their teams and ensure that their teams remain aligned in terms of what's needed and that performance and engagement remains high. And with this comes the need to consider other forms of technology to support that. And then that also brings with it an increased focus on training and development. We've already spoken about the need to support our management in going through management development programs to manage hybrid work models and manage with empathy. But we also need to consider the impact on our teams. There's a need to continuously upskill with the changing technological landscape, with the coming fourth industrial revolution, with the fact that we have machine learning and automation. We have changing technology and tools to help us and support our working from home. But as a previous speaker also so quite well indicated, there's a multitude of softer skills that are also needed in the new world of work. Communication, interpersonal skills, judgment, perception, conflict management, all becomes increasingly important as we shift into this different space. And maybe as a last point or second last point to this is what that means from a communication and an engagement perspective. There's an increasing need as we can no longer visibly engage with our teams on the floor and have that traditional view of where we are. There's a need to increase our engagement and our feedback. Whether or not we do this through formal town hall sessions or written communications via multiple platforms or surveys, the need to reach out and remain engaged with our teams that are now spread so far and wide becomes extremely important. Studies then indicate that in this forward motion, we need to be very clear in terms of our intent, our plan, and the structure that we create. Companies that put very flexible models in place but have no structure towards that might battle to manage this. It is more difficult to manage a hybrid model and a more flexible model than a traditional set in stone 8 to 5 on-site model. And the need is there to create some sense of structure and feeling of belonging within this. So those are the key considerations in leading through this. And maybe before I get to that, I think I want to highlight again that there is no one size fits all. There's no model that's ideal. There's no perfect benchmark that you can pull down and say, well, this is the model that's going to work. It is going to be different for each company. If you'll bear with me, I'd like to share with you what this means for us at Genesis. And we've determined this through quite a lot of thinking and quite a lot of brain power and survey studying and engagements with our teams and related. For us, it means that we consider what our teams as well as our business and our clients need. We consider the need to remain agile, to be extremely customer-centric, but to provide flexibility in terms of everyone in the company, if I can put it that simply. For us, it means 2 days a week in the office, Mondays and Fridays, because that's the important days for our planning. The other 3 days are decision-based. It can be remote or it can be in office. The office will always be open, and every person will have their dedicated desk in the office that's closest to them. If a person chooses to work remotely on those 3 days, it's their choice. If they choose to go into the office, it's their choice. We want to provide a structure that works for each person. As for the desk, we want each person to have their own space to be creative and to feel that they belong. Fridays are our virtual free days. This is to give our teams a break from Zoom fatigue, which is real. I think we all can feel that after such an extended period. And it's also our internal day. It's the day to engage internally, to focus on reconnecting with each other, to do our planning, to do our catch-ups, and to be creative. Moving to outcomes-based, customer-centric KPIs. And this does mean re-looking at the way we do performance and the way we measure it. We've determined that the bum-and-see traditional 8 to 5 is not necessary. Work can be done anytime. As long as the work gets done, as long as the output is there, then it provides our teams with the opportunity to have that flexibility for themselves and for their families and for what they need. Is it a perfect model? It's probably not. And are we going to have to review it and see where it leads us in the future? We most definitely will. But this is what being agile and flexible means for us. In addition to this, to address some of the other concerns, we've implemented a formal employee assistance program to ensure that our team remains well supported, that they have that ongoing support in terms of their physical and their mental and the financial well-being. We've also actively started educating our teams around the meaning of work from home practices, what that means in principle, and mental health matters. We've implemented ongoing communication methods with a strong focus on, move on to my next slide, ongoing engagement through town halls and surveys and informal sessions. We're driving as much collaboration and input from our teams as we can. We're sharing as much information as we can around where we're heading in the new world of work and where we're going. We're sourcing their recommendations and we're trying to adapt to that. As I always say, you can't change everything, but you can certainly take it and try and change it to make it work better. And this will ramp up in the coming months. We'll keep driving this to ensure that we retain that engagement and that culture. And there will be a focus on skills development, an increased focus, not just from a technical perspective, but also from a soft skill perspective, making sure that we drive those soft skills that need to be there as we move forward. Again, we can ask the question, is this perfect? It's probably not, but it is around adapting and moving forward as we go. I think that is essentially me. I see there are some questions, so if no one minds, I'll have a quick look. So we've had a question around our employee assistance program being contracted out. It is indeed, at the moment, we are contracting with an external provider. I think there's a lot of discussion around, do you want to have an in-house program or an external? And there's pros and cons to both. If you do have an internal program, it does need to have a separation. And there does need to be that trust that it's not part of your management or your HR function, and that we can have that segregation in talking to our teams and to someone that we can listen to. So I think that's an important aspect to consider. But also in considering partnering with the correct service provider then, of course. For us, this is an ongoing thing. We need to determine what that looks like on an ongoing basis and what we need on an ongoing basis. In addition to our employee assistance program, we are, however, considering a lot of internal development as well that we are driving. Not sure if there's any more questions. Has there been any assessment around increased alcohol and drug abuse? Not formally. It is something we know that we definitely need to look at. We do monitor on a basis of, are we picking up any challenges in terms of people's behavior? There's typical things that pop out, late coming, inability to focus and matters like that, but very valuable input. I think it is extremely important doing that, specifically in certain industries, and IT and finance are certainly one of the industries that we need to consider that in. So definitely something to consider.
Thank you so much for that presentation, Christelle. It comes at an important time when a lot of organizations are having the conversation about whether to go back into the office full-time, continue working remotely full-time, or incorporate a hybrid solution. So a huge thank you on that one. And just like that, we have reached the end of the session. It's gone by so fast. Let me take this opportunity now to thank our sponsors who have made the session possible. Huge thank you to Santam, our headline sponsor today, our event partners, CIB, Global Choices, the IISA, as well as Cover, coming in as the media partner. A huge thank you to all of our speakers for availing yourselves and sharing your valuable insights. Truly appreciated. And of course, you, our attendees, a huge thank you to you for your continued support of InsureTalk. A reminder that InsureTalk17 will be taking place on the 28th of October. We have just shared the link once again in the chat, so do yourself a favor and go and register yourself. As I always do, I'm going to leave you with a quote by Deepak Chopra. All the greatest changes are preceded by chaos. And with that said, from myself, Nontutuko Mhlungu, and the CN&CO events team, it's been an absolute pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Stay safe and see you at InsureTalk17.